Hi everybody, Tesia Blackburn here, coming to you from my studio in San Francisco. Today's topic is all about how to use acrylic gels in a watercolor painting. We're going to use some of the beautiful core watercolors made by Golden Artist Colors. We're also going to be using some gels made by Golden, and the wonderful people over at StencilGirl Products sent me some very cool stencils to play with so I can show you how to do this technique. So the first thing I'm going to do is put down a very saturated watercolor background. I'm going to be using complementary colors. I find these work really well to get the colors beautifully saturated, and if they happen to bleed into one another, the mixture that they make is going to be really pretty. So use highly saturated color. I'm going to use quinacridone magenta and green gold with a little bit of Van Dyke brown, all from Golden's core watercolor line. I'm working on the beautiful paper here made by Fluid 100. I'm using the 300-pound watercolor block because you need something that's got a little bit of weight to it because we're going to scrub on this paper, okay? So don't use a very lightweight piece of watercolor paper. Get something with a little heft, all right? I am going to put out Quin Magenta, Green Gold. These two complementary colors make a beautiful mixture, and a little bit of Van Dyke Brown. Now for this particular technique to work, you need a very dark background. I'm going to take a little water and pre-wet my paper. And then I'm just going to float those colors right into that pre-wet area. Don't be skimpy with those colors. Really saturate that paper. We're really relying on that contrast for this technique to work. Okay, next comes my green gold. Get a little water down there. Grab a little green gold. Wherever the green gold meets that Quin Magenta, it's going to make a beautiful, vibrant brown. And that's going to be great for what I'm doing. I want some really nice, heavily saturated color. I'm using lots of water and lots of paint. I love this core watercolor. The colors are so vibrant and so saturated. I love it. So I'm loving the way this looks. This is going to work for my purposes. I'm going to take up all the white spots. I don't want any white area on my paper. Now these core watercolors are super pigmented, so they're big punchy color, but you still need to load it up, okay? So I want to really load up these areas because what I'm going to show you next with the gel is it's going to be important that we have these areas really nicely saturated. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to set that aside to dry, and when we come back, I'm going to show you how to work with the gel on top of this and use those really cool stencils. Okay, we're back and we have our dried watercolor painting in front of us. See how lovely and saturated those colors are? Beautifully dark. We're going to get lots of contrast with that. Now the next thing we're going to do is push some of the heavy gel gloss through these very cool stencils from StencilGirl and get a kind of a resist. So let me show you how that works. First, I'm going to take this nice big bold stencil and I'm going to put that right in the center. I'll take my heavy gel gloss and I'm going to just spread that heavy gel gloss right down over that stencil. Okay, once you've got that down, pick that up and you'll see that the gel looks white. That's because it's a heavy gel, it's gloss, and it's going to dry clear, but it's going to look white while it's wet. Don't let that bother you, okay? Next, I'm going to take this other wonderful stencil from StencilGirl, and you can see here I've taken some tape and I've blocked out one element. I love the whole stencil, but I wanted to use this little element, so I just blocked it out with some tape, and I'm going to put it down right here. And when I do that, I'm going to kind of hold up the edge of the stencil so it doesn't go down into the wet gel that I've just put down. I'm going to hold that, put my gel down, and pull it back up. All right, perfect. I'm going to put one off to the side. So I'll put my stencil down, hold it up, put my gel through, and I'm going to do one more here. Put my stencil down, hold it up, push that gel through, bam, you're done. Okay, all right, so we're going to let that dry, and when we come back, I'm going to show you how this really gets incorporated into a watercolor painting. So now I'm going to show you the next step, and this is where the fun starts. We're going to take just plain water, and we're going to wash away the watercolor that is on the board, and what's going to be left is the watercolor that's under that stencil. So this is a pretty cool process. This is why I wanted you to make sure your watercolor painting was really saturated, okay? So let's take up all of that beautiful core watercolor that we put down. We're going to just rub that with plain clear water. Just saturate that with water and gently scrub. Gently scrub. It may not look like much is happening to begin with, but keep after it. Eventually, you're going to start pulling up that core watercolor, and you're going to have a beautiful stain left behind. Okay, I've been scrubbing away on my watercolor painting, and you can see that I'm getting some wonderful contrast. I'm going to show that to the camera. Look at that really cool contrast I'm getting. I've washed away a lot of that core that was in the background. You know, those gels that I put down, the heavy gel gloss that I put down through the stencil, that'll stay put. So you can scrub around it, you know, and pick up the color around it. You're not going to pick up the gel. But when you start to see it looking gray like this, let me show that to the camera. When you start to see it looking gray like this, that means it's reabsorbing water. Don't worry about that. We're going to hit it with a hairdryer here in a little bit, and it's going to clear right up. Okay, we're back, and our gel has cleared, the gel that we put through the stencil on top of the watercolor painting. And remember, we scrubbed off a bunch of that watercolor, and the gel got all cloudy and weird looking, and I was like, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. Well, it has dried clear, and it has trapped that really saturated watercolor underneath. And where we have scrubbed the watercolor off the paper, now we've got some really lovely contrast. So take a look at this. I'm going to hold it up to the camera so you can see. So that's a pretty cool technique, right? Watercolor painting on a nice heavyweight board or a heavyweight watercolor paper. Let it dry. Put the gel down through these wonderful stencils from StencilGirl. Woohoo! And then let that dry. Come back and scrub off that watercolor. And now you've got this beautiful contrast underneath that gel. Isn't that cool? I knew you'd like that. Thanks again to StencilGirl for sending me these cool stencils to play with. Don't forget to check out the core watercolor from Golden, super delicious. And of course, Golden Gels and Mediums. You can check me out at acrylicdiva.com. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you inside the next project. Bye for now.